Okay, so for part 2 of the reflection and revamp assignment, I chose case study 3, and this case study talked about how there were two students in the class that were being treated differently. So one of them was an ESL student who spoke Spanish, and then the other one was a Black student, and the ESL student was excluded from playing cards with the other classmates because they said that she didn't speak English, therefore she couldn't play with them because she wouldn't know what to do. And then the Black student was excluded from doing hair or like playing salon with the other girls because they said they couldn't braid her hair. The class also did a little formative assessment where they switched papers and corrected each other's, what I assume was like a writing assignment they did. And one student corrected the ESL student's writing and said that they can't write in Spanish. And then the Black student had comments written on her paper that said, "What does finna mean?" And both colored students were also given more area of growth comments than the other students. So those were the main issues that were talked about in that case. So it was not mentioned how the students responded, so I'm not sure if they responded in a positive manner or if they kind of just turned and walked away. However, I think it's hard for them just because they're being singled out and they don't have other people with them that they can kind of go up to the girls maybe and talk to them about it. And it seems like they don't have much support in the classroom. So I don't think that they necessarily did anything wrong, but I think that an idea for them to grow in this situation would be that when the girl was told that she couldn't play with them because they couldn't braid her hair, she could have maybe showed them how to braid her hair, or if she didn't want her hair braided, she could have showed them a new hairstyle, or if they were playing salon and she didn't want anyone to play with her hair, she could have been like the receptionist, or she still could have been included in the game somehow. And I think that it would be beneficial for her to say how she could have been included in the game, because then the other students could have learned what to do in that if that situation happens again. And I also think that the ESL student could have tried to communicate with them in a different way. For example, I don't think you need, when you're playing cards or any game like outside, like tag or basketball, you don't need to be talking with them the whole time. So she could have still played with them. And I also think this is a good lesson for the other students to learn, because in their workplace in the future or something, they might be working with nonverbal coworkers, or they might be working with deaf people who can't communicate like that. So it's important that they're learning different ways to communicate. Okay, sorry. Question 3 was highlight what you know about the teacher, administration, or family and their role with assessment. And I said that it wasn't really talked about, but based on how the students were reacting to the situation, it seems like there's probably not a lot of incorporation with different cultures, and that's just how I feel based on how the students were reacting. It kind of seemed different to them that there was a student that was speaking Spanish. And it also made me wonder how much support for ESL students they have, like for assessment or just general classroom instruction, because I feel like if the students aren't used to it, there might not be a lot of ESL students, which makes me think maybe the administration isn't as trained on this, or they might not have as many supports. Something I did like though is that the teacher was letting the students grade each other, but I felt like she should have put restrictions or rules before that to prevent things like students getting how the colored students were getting more areas of growth comments. An idea was she could have said each student is going to give another student 3 corrections, or 3 things that they did good, just so that it's equal for everyone. And then on page 30 of observational tools to inform instruction for culturally and linguistically diverse learners, which was one of the articles, it said, under Race to the Top, many states are developing new and revised teacher certification exams and teacher performance assessments for teacher candidates. And I think that could be important for the administration to implement for the teachers to make sure that they're on the right track when they're dealing with ESL students. And this also leads to question. Okay, and then for question 4, I suggested that the teacher changes a lot of her lessons that she's doing to make the classroom more inclusive. So an idea would be maybe if she's doing a read aloud, she could read a book that's more maybe about one of the students' cultures, or changing the topic of a project to like a heritage project, or showing them a video about inclusivity. The article that's titled "How a Cultural Lens Can Help Teachers Disrupt Inequity" gave different ideas for how to guide teachers through this process. So it gave ideas such as emphasizing self-reflection, so making sure that the students are saying things, thinking kind of before they speak and making sure they're not saying anything offensive, embracing intersectionality, and then creating groups where members can dialogue regularly. So maybe we want to make sure that she's including the ESL student a little bit more in discussion or any activity where a few students are communicating. I also discussed that she should probably speak to administration for more support if she doesn't have any. And then in chapter 4 of the Gottlieb book, it says, nevertheless, it remains the responsibility of the teachers to capitalize on the linguistic and cultural resources of their students by making continuous connections with their prior experiences. So I think this kind of connects to what I was saying about how the teacher needs to implement more things that are representative of the students' cultures and making sure that the other students understand that.